I've got some cracks and I'm trying a new product. This is the crack I want to get repaired today. This is what the product looks like out of the package, and you just shove this stuff down into the crack and then melt it. Welcome back to the Coyote Country Homestead. We've had an unusually wet summer here in Missouri, and that's really slowed down a lot of my driveway projects because it's just rained a lot more than I had planned for it to be. I mean, we're at the middle of August now, and I think we've only had 3 or 4 dry days since the last time it rained, and then we keep getting rain like every 2 to 3 days. And so a lot of the driveway work that I need to do requires that I have 2 or 3 days, at least 48 hours of dry weather after that, and I haven't been able to rely on that. So that means I've been working on some other projects. The downspout pipe under the ground, the drain pipe that I repaired, that actually turned out pretty well. I've still got a little bit of work to do on that, but let me show you that real quick. If you remember, I had a downspout that comes in here. I'll link to this video where I did this replacement, and it came down under the ground, and right about here is where, when I was reworking all this driveway area here, I ended up hitting it. The pipe was a little bit shallow, and I hit it with the tractor and ended up digging it up. And it's supposed to come all the way down to here, to the edge of the property, and then daylight into this hayfield over here. And so I used the tractor blade to help dig a trench along here, and then lay new pipe that I connected in there. And then instead of just having a daylight, I went ahead and put a little pop-up down here. And so it looks okay. I still need to, the rain has helped really settle this down. I've run over it with the tractor and the mower a few times. Now I need to get a rake out here and really do sort of a final smooth on it, get a little bit of this gravel cleaned up on the side. I really kind of wanted this gravel to be around the pop-up here so that it would just provide better drainage. That'll eventually fill in too. I want to really be able to see it. It seems like any surface I leave exposed out here, just it grows up. Grass and weeds and all kinds of stuff take it over in a very short amount of time. So that project turned out pretty well, and it was something I could work on. It didn't require a lot of dry weather. I had to wait about 48 hours after it rained, and I could get it done in a day or two before the rain moved in again. But today I'm going to try and get back to the asphalt repair work. I've got some cracks and I'm trying a new product today. Let me show you the crack that I need to repair over here and the product I'm going to use for it. This is the crack I want to get repaired today. This has gotten fairly wide, and you can see that we're at a downspout right there, so a fair amount of water and moisture gets into that. So I want to get that sealed up, and then I'm going to try and get this whole area sealed up in the next week or two. The product we're going to be experimenting with today is this. Let me turn this up on its edge. That's a little bit better. It's this Latex-ite Pli-Stix, and you'll see the way we do this, supposedly, haven't used this before, this will be the first time, is we're going to take that stuff and we're going to press it into the crack, and then we're going to use a propane torch to melt it, and that's going to seal that crack up for us and get it ready for putting down the filler sealer. Now, as with so many of the other projects I've done this summer, I've never used this product and I've never done this type of repair before. So this will be a first time for me. Once again, if you haven't been following me for very long, this is a video log. This is not a how-to channel. It would be great if in the next few years I get knowledgeable enough on some of this stuff to make this a how-to channel, but mostly this is my journey, my experience of trying to use these products to solve my problems, and hey, we're gonna see if it works. So let me get all the tools together, I'm gonna get set up, get this on the tripod, and we'll start fixing this crack. So before I can get this product into the crack, I need to go ahead and get it cleaned out. So I'm gonna start with a small wire bristled broom, actually a brush, a little hand brush. You'll see that I'm using that, and get this cleaned out. And then I'm going to give a good sweep to the area surrounding it, so I make sure I don't get anything in it. I don't have to clean up as big an area as I would when I was sealing it, of course. I really only need to get the crack and the surrounding area clean. So I'm going to get that done. This is just the little brush that I'm going to use to clean out the crack. Once again, I'm going to use my trusty Husky knee pad. Best $15 I ever spent. This is what the product looks like out of the package. It's just this asphalt-y type product, and then it's got this little wrapper around it that keeps it from sticking to itself. That'll burn away, and you just shove this stuff down into the crack and then melt it. So one of the things that the product says to do, you know, my first inclination would be to unroll this stuff and start trying to line up the whole crack. It says to actually cut this into like 8 to 10 inch sections. I wonder if that's because as it melts, it's gonna need to probably contract a little bit and fill the hole in. And so if I were to line it all out, it would probably not fill in very well. I'm hoping by cutting it into the smaller sections that it will fill in properly. Also, at the beginning of this is a wider crack than at the end. So I may have to put an 8 to 10 inch section in there and then come back and put another one in to make sure that it fills in properly. Whereas down at the end here, I'll probably only need one. So we're gonna put our first one down and we'll see what happens. So we're gonna take that and we're just gonna put that into the crack here. Actually, I'm gonna back that up a little bit. I wanna get that all the way right up against there, and I can see how I'm definitely gonna need another one in here. But let's get that melted in first and see what that looks like. You use a propane torch for this. I kind of like having a little bit of an extension on here so that I can have the torch set aside out of the way and melt it with just the end of it here. The instructions say that that plastic liner is going to just burn off. That's not a problem. You just keep going back and forth and let this melt. Now, that stuff, I just used a flame to melt that stuff. It's hot. So, in fact, I'm gonna get my gloves on for this part. Because if you're not paying attention and you reach down and you get your hand in that stuff, that melted product is going to adhere to it and it's gonna burn and it's gonna stay on your skin and burn, and it's not gonna be very pleasant. And you can see right there, I managed to get a little bit on my glove. I don't care about my gloves, I do care about my fingers. I'm gonna let that kind of just settle into the crack and melt there. I'm gonna move on to another section. The instructions recommend that you have something that you can use to push this down into the cracks. Screwdriver, paint tool, whatever it is that whatever will work for you. And I don't think you have to get it pressed down too much in there, because as you can see, as it melts, it's going to settle into that hole. I think it's more about keeping it off of the surrounding surface. I don't know that, that's just my opinion. Pound that in there. Concentrating on this area a little bit because it's where I couldn't push it down, it's still up a little bit. So get that to where it's melted enough to get smooth into there. Gets a little harder to work in as these cracks narrow up. Product says that it's supposed to be, you're supposed to have about 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch below where it settles below the surface. It's not supposed to be out above, and then we'll fill that in with the filler sealer. So this part right here is seeming pretty good. I'd like to get a little bit right into here, and then I need to go back with a second layer in some of this other stuff here. I'll come back and fill that in and maybe that in. And then we're getting, with these cracks here, we're getting to the point where I probably won't use this product. I might try in here and here, but as we get into narrower cracks like what we've got here, probably a different product is better to use. They do make this in a smaller size also. I only have the one size. There's a couple of places where it's still just a little lower than what I would like. I want it below the edge of the cement or the asphalt, but we're still a little low in these spots. So I'm gonna fill that in. Well, there you can see the final product. Crack was actually a little bigger than I thought it was. A little wider. By the time all that product got in there and filled it up, it's pretty wide. And so if we move in just a little bit closer, you can see it really does a good job of filling that and getting into all of the cracks and crevices, really what I wanted. I think that's going to do a pretty good job of sealing against weather. And of course I will be coming in after the fact and filling that in with a filler sealer product. So final thoughts about this product, having used it exactly one time. I do plan to use it other places. I think for certain cracks, this is the right solution. This was a little bit wider and deeper crack that I needed a better product than say the Band-Aid tape stuff that I'd used before, or even some of that liquid crack fill that you can put in. And I could have gone with the trowel patch on this, but that stuff's not quite as neat. And I think that covers a little bit larger area. It would have been a little bit more difficult to work down into the cracks. So those are some of the pluses that I think for this product. Some of the downsides are it's time consuming. I mean, this is not a 36-inch crack probably that I had to fill. And I mean, we're talking half hour to 45 minutes of work to make that happen. That's not terrible if I only have this one, but if you've got yards and yards of this to do, you're gonna have to allow for some time to make that happen. The other thing is you will go through some propane. Could be because I'm just starting and there's a learning curve on this, but I emptied out my first bottle about 2/3 of the way through this project. I don't know how far I am through the second bottle. I'm glad I bought 2 to work on this project with. I do really like how you can cut that stuff into sections and then fill an area and then find out, okay, I need to use more product here, so I'll cut another section of it and I'll drop it in there, or I can cut a little inch here and there and fill that in as needed. I think that's pretty handy. It is a little bit difficult to work with as you get down towards the end. So where you have a wider part of the crack and you can shove this product down in there, I think it's great for that. As you start to get to the narrow parts and you have to really shove it down there, I might look at cutting the product in half and trying to shove that down. But even at that, there is an end of it where the crack just gets too small for this product to work, and you really need to move to a different product. So I like it. I'm going to use it again. I think it's really going to hold up well, since it's that petroleum-based product that melts into the crack. I think it's going to do a really good job of sealing it. So I have high hopes. We're going to see how it works in the long term. So that's it for this one. Not a real long one. Do me a favor, click like, click subscribe. Subscribe won't cost you any money. We won't reach out and send you anything, but it does help me grow the channel, and it will let you know when I have more of these types of videos coming out. Other than that, that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us out here at the Coyote Country Homestead. My name is Chris. We'll talk to you again.